So today we're talking about the Fallout TV series. I'm a pretty big Fallout fan. It was a high runner-up on my top 10 video games of all time list. This is probably the most hype I've been for a game adaptation since the boring AC movie. Cautious hype, of course. I haven't really covered any of the games because I'm planning on eventually doing a Bethesda month. Anyway, now that I've seen the whole series, I'm pretty pleased with it. It's not perfect, but it's still a really good representation of the games and generally good show. Before we get into the rest of the video, I'd like to mention my Steam game, The Silicon Shadow. Use your glide boots to slide and shoot through killer robots, conquer platforming challenges, and explore the dark atmosphere of a steampunk, retro-futuristic space station. Fight the shadows within the depths of space, and uncover the truth of its downfall in this noir movement shooter. Also, I want as much feedback as possible. Feel free to do so in the Steam Community Hub or wherever else. I enjoy the story of these three characters trying to make their way through the wasteland, and the wasteland in the show feels 99% like the wasteland of the games, so it matches pretty well. The factions, world building, and side stories are really good, and to be honest, I sort of wonder where this level of good writing was for Starfield. Starfield's not terrible. Speaking of good writing, the characters in particular, the three main characters, Lucy, Maximus, and the Ghoul, are written and acted very well. Lucy's probably my favorite of the characters. Her naive, vault-dwelling innocence, clashing against the brutal wasteland, works really well, and I like how even though she realizes she needs to adapt the wasteland, she doesn't just abandon who she is either. And it's a constant internal struggle for her, and Ella Purnell shows it really well. I think we'll see a lot more of her in future movies and TV. Walter Goggins as the Ghoul is a super fun character with level 99 charisma.
I'd offer you one of these cherry tomatoes, but you got a hole in your neck.
But we also get flashbacks to him before the bombs dropped, and it really shows the divide between him in the past and the future, and how the wasteland has changed him a lot. Maximus doesn't get quite the development that the other two get, but we do get a lot of good stuff from his character. They show how the Brotherhood of Steel treats him and how that affects how he treats others. But in spite of that, at the end of the day, he's trying to do the right thing. The show has good themes where they show that everyone's just trying to do the right thing, but everyone's different perspectives change how they see the world and change how they see what doing the right thing is. I like how there's no really fully good people in the show. They're all flawed. This leads into my next point on how I like how even though there are things that relate to real life and act as social commentary, there's no poorly written, transparent metaphors. There's also pretty good dark humor in the show that fits in with the Fallout universe. There are good action scenes that are fun, and I also like the amount of action scenes. They don't blatantly come up with an excuse to have a fight scene every episode, but they're also not forgetting to make sure that there's some action to keep the intensity up. I think The Last of Us show dropped the ball a bit on that. The first two episodes use a lot of slow-mo that sort of recreates VATS, which is good fun and nice to see. There's good production value, good sets, props, and visual effects. It doesn't feel like they compromised any bit of their vision because the effects budgets would be too much. I also like how they kept a lot of the visual designs and sound effects from the game and didn't arbitrarily change it for no real reason, because they're good designs and sound effects and we want to see them because it's part of the world. Looking at the series as a whole, I'd say the first two episodes are great, but it gets a little rockier from there. It's still really good. That being said, the ending was a little bit disappointing, mainly that the main villain introduced in the first episode does a really bad thing, which is technically sort of resolved, but I don't like how they very quickly changed focus to a new villain for Season 2. There are also a lot of loose ends. It's okay to have some things hanging for Season 2, but it does make me worried that the story will be spread too thin in the future, but overall this is a really good show that represents the source material well and also adds good new stories and characters. And I'm giving it an 8.9. Now I'm going to get into some spoilers, including the contentious thing people are talking about. So if you don't want to hear spoilers, now's your time to click off. I'll go ahead and quickly clarify that it was Moldaver that I felt was being subverted for Lucy's dad being the main villain. It bothers me that once it's revealed Moldaver has some pretty good reasons to hate the dad, that they sort of just ignore all the vault dwellers she killed that knew nothing about it. Now on to the New Vegas and Shady Sands stuff. Firstly, it's not a retcon to the timeline, and it's probably not Todd Howard being spiteful toward Obsidian, but I am worried about the future of the show. I get people want to see stuff directly from the games, but I like that this was its own mostly contained story in LA.
But everyone is driving around in cars, shooting at each other.
That's LA for you.
But the air is green and there's no sign of civilization whatsoever.
He just won't stop with the social commentary.
The second season being set in New Vegas could cause a lot of problems. We already got people upset over the smaller inconsistencies that are already in the show, and this opens the door to a lot of friction between the game story and the show's story. Also, they'll have to pick a canon ending to New Vegas, which causes the other game's endings to lose some luster. In spite of this, because of the high quality of this season, I'm still excited for season 2. Thank you to anyone who likes, comments, or subscribes. That's it.
Okie dokie.
I don't